Hey everyone, Sam Ovens here, and today I want to tell you about systems thinking and how most successful people think. Now, systems thinking is something that, has fascinated me for a long time, and I've always been looking at, some people who are really successful, like entrepreneurs, but even employees and people who, are really good at anything. And I've been trying to think, what really separates them? Why are they different? How come they can see things that other people can't? And what goes on in their brain? Like, how do they think differently than normal people? And this thing has fascinated me for a long time. And I've really tried to study it, and it's even become a point of obsession where I've been trying to figure it out. And after a long time, after years, I figured out that most successful people, it doesn't matter what field they're in, they're systems thinkers. And what that means is they view everything as a system, and how they think through things and how they visualize things in their mind is interconnected systems, not linear, like, chain of cause and effect. And I'm going to explain this to you in this video, and I'm going to show you, how a systems thinker thinks. I'm going to show you how you can become a systems thinker, and how this has an immediate and profound effect on the results that you'll get in your business and in your life. So first of all, what is a system, and what is systems thinking? Well, it doesn't matter where you look in the world, the world is full of systems. They're everywhere. And I'll give you some examples. We have the solar system, right? That's what it's called. And it's called a solar system because there's all of these different planets, and they all, rotate around each other, and all of them affect how, what happens with other things. It's all interconnected. And the solar system is basically moving, it's interactive, and it's trying to balance all the time, right? And then within a solar system, we have Earth, and then within Earth, we have an ecosystem, right? That's what nature is. And the ecosystem is what we all live in. There's trees that produce oxygen, and to do that, they need water, which comes from rain and clouds, and also the sun, which provides, which heats the earth, and then the water evaporates, rises up, forms clouds, drops down. And, it's a fascinating thing to look at, because one of the best systems in the world, well, actually, this is hands down the best system ever, is nature. And if you think about it, nature, it's smarter than any one of us on Earth by a mile. We cannot figure it out. We still can't predict the weather, and we still can't really predict anything. But nature it continues to outsmart us all the time. And what nature is doing is it's all interconnected, right? You've got the sun, and that's interconnected by heating water that's in rivers and in the oceans on Earth, and then that's evaporating, it's coming and forming clouds, and then the clouds are moving around with wind, and they're spreading rain into different areas which might need water. And the sun is taking that water out of other areas that have a lot of water. So, nature is trying to balance itself all the time. And even some things that, we humans think are bad. For a classic example is forest fires, right? It's fascinating. A lot of humans, most humans always thought, forest fires are bad. And so what they did is they decided to put an initiative in place to try and stop forest fires altogether. And then what happened is they thought they were successful because they were able to stop some forest fires for a long time. But then what happened is one big gnarly forest fire just swept through and just annihilated everything. And then in hindsight, they realized that those small bushfires that happen all the time, that's nature's way of getting rid of the debris that's on the forest floor so that it never piles up too high, and that it burns off, and it causes small fires. And small fires are actually a lot better than one big catastrophic fire, right? And so by preventing those fires, they actually caused a bigger one. And this is a classic example of why nature is a lot more intelligent than us humans, and it's the ultimate system. And it goes further than that. There's if you think into society and different humans and they're interconnecting, we've got social systems, we've got a legal system, The legal system is different laws and how all of those laws interconnect. Social systems, those are different social norms, and we've got systems for operating. If a human wants to interact in society, it's very hard for them to just make everything up and go out there and say and do whatever the hell they want. They won't be able to communicate with other people. They won't be accepted. And, they won't really be able to integrate with the social system API because they don't know the protocols to call into that thing and communicate things. And so, we have to learn all of these different systems in order to operate within the system. And as you start going deeper into this thing, you realize that everything is really a system. We've got a language system. We've got a numbering system. When we're educated, we learn the number system, which is just very simple numbers. And then we learn how to, we learn a language like English or Chinese or whatever. And the languages are just built up of words and the interconnections of those words, and numbers are just made up of numbers, and the interconnection of those numbers creates the system. So we learn these elementary building blocks that then can be used to interconnect and communicate and do all of these things. And without knowing the number system, or without knowing a language system, and without knowing the legal system or the social system, then a human being cannot operate in this world the way it is right now. So you start to get my point. And then it goes, even deeper. Like, this isn't even all of the systems within your body. You've got your immune system, your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system, your digestive system, and then you've got your reproductive system, and then your muscular system, your sensory system, your nervous system, right? It goes on and on. And there's systems within systems, and when you really start to look, you realize that all life really is all of these different systems at all different levels, and all of them interconnect. Now, why am I talking about all of this, and how does this actually help you in business? Well, business is, a system again. We've got an accounting system to try and figure out, if we're making a profit or a loss. We have, all sorts of online systems, right? There's Google, there's Facebook, there's, and if you're going to use a software, like if you're going to use a landing page software like ClickFunnels, that's a system. You've got to learn that system and what its components are and how those components interconnect. And what I've found is that the people who do really well as entrepreneurs and really well in life as well, and our best hires, the people that are just exceptional, they're all systems thinkers. And why that's important is these days I see a lot of people who are not systems thinkers. And what's the opposite of a systems thinker? Well, it's really like a component thinker, right? And what that means is that instead of viewing the whole and how the whole has all of these moving parts and how all of these moving parts interconnect, they just see a piece. And they just see this piece frozen in time like it's static. And, all they know is this piece. But they don't know how this piece fits into a larger whole and changes and affects other things within the whole, right? And in business, like, the piece is never important. What is important is the whole and the well-being of the whole, and the whole is the business, right? So a classic example of this, might be an accountant, right? And this is true. This is like, accountants are notorious for this. A lot of accountants, they're so closed-minded and narrow-minded that all they can see and think about is just like the P&L and balance sheet. That's all they see, and they're just confined to thinking about things as accounting. So they might look at our expenses for Facebook ads and be like, oh my God, this is stupid. Why are you spending this much money on Facebook ads? Like, why are you spending millions of dollars on it? This is a waste. This is an expense. And what that accountant can't see is that, when we spend money on ads, that's the action, right? Which is an expense. But then the reaction of that action is that we make a profit. Now, that's not always true. That doesn't mean that if anyone spends money on ads, they're going to make a profit. But we do it in a way that does that. And so, you have to take your time to explain it to these people, and they still really can't get it. And I'm like, man, what the hell is wrong with this person? Like, if I put $1 into a machine and $3 comes out, why would I limit my putting of dollars into the machine, right? That's what an accountant thinks you should do. Well, that's what a bad one thinks you should do, right? Because they can't see the bigger picture. they can't see how all of these things interconnect. So they just see expenses as bad, and they can't see how an expense can actually create income. And they're component thinkers, they can only see their little thing. And another example of this is basically, a lot of employees who are just narrow-minded in their little area. So you might have someone in customer support who is answering support tickets in a particular way and doing things in a particular way, not thinking about how that's going to affect the larger whole. And they might think, oh, if I do this, then it might come back and affect finance, or it might come back and affect our live chat website team, or it might affect another team, right? They don't think about how all of these things interconnect. They just think things operate in isolation. And a lot of people think like this. They think that everything operates in a vacuum. And I see this, a classic example in marketing is people who just focus on their landing page conversion rate, right? They look at their landing page and they see a conversion rate and they see a cost per lead, which is a cost per email address. And let's say that number is 15% opt-in rate, and they might think, oh, that's bad. So then what they do is they start making changes to that landing page, and they get it from 15% to 30% or 40%. And they're like, oh, that's good, I improved that conversion rate there. But that's a component thinker's view, right? What a systems thinker would do is they would look at the whole. They would look at the health of the whole, not the part. And so instead of thinking about a landing page, they would think about the entire machine. And where does that machine end? What's the ultimate measurement within this machine? Well, it's getting a customer and cost per acquisition and ROI, return on investment, right? And so when a systems thinker makes changes to their landing page, they're not so worried about the landing page conversion rate. They're worried about the change to the cost per acquisition and the ROI. And this is how I do things. Like when I'm optimizing my landing page, I've taken it from like 18% to 40%, and I've actually hurt sales at the end. And a lot of people don't understand that you can do this. You can get an improvement here and kill everything here where it matters. So where it doesn't matter, you can make an improvement. Where it really matters, you can hurt it. It is more than possible, and I see this all the time, where these things actually go opposite ways at different stages in the machine. And only really a systems thinker can do this. Another classic example is a lot of entrepreneurs I see who just have really shitty customer support. They think that customer support is not worth anything to a customer. They think that that part of the business they should just farm out to some people overseas for $500 a month for them to just do and figure it out, and it's an afterthought, right? Because all their money they think should be invested into marketing and other things, because support doesn't influence income. That's how a component thinker would think. But a systems thinker would think, hey, if a customer buys from us and then they have a question, and if we answer that question poorly or late, or if it's not done professionally and well, if it doesn't wow the customer, then how's that customer going to feel? Probably pretty bad. And then if we sell something else, which we're highly likely to do, then they're less likely to buy something else from us in the future. So actually, we're harming ourselves by offering shitty support. We're actually going to make less money by doing that. That's what a systems thinker would think. And so that's why, with my team, we've got well-paid, well-trained, full-time, US-based, people doing our customer support, and I obsess over it. I look at all of the numbers, I look at our happiness score, which is how happy people are, and that is, I looked at the standards across the board, and Google and a lot of companies that are really good at this, they've got their satisfaction score at 92, happiness, right? And we've been able to get ours to about 87. And that's pretty damn good, and my mission is to get it better than Google's, right? And we're doing that, we're making it better every day. And that's actually had an effect on our sales. We make more money because our support's better. Because when a customer has an amazing experience, and when they've dealt with other businesses like ours, they've had a horrible one, then who are they more likely to buy from next time around? It's a no-brainer. But only when you think like a systems thinker. And also we obsess over the response time, how fast from when someone submits a ticket to when we reply. Right now we're at like 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and I want to get that down. My mission is to get that to like 6 minutes, right? Because I want it not to just be good enough, I want it to be exceptional to the point that our support becomes a marketing and sales tool in and of itself. That's systems thinking. Everything can be used to do anything because it all interconnects, right? Now, I want to show you how a system basically works, first and foremost, because it's pretty simple. And everything in the world works like this. So you've got inputs over here, and inputs are what you put into a system. And then you've got processes in the middle, the triangle, and the processes are like, what happens with those inputs. It's like it's how you're manipulating and combining and changing those inputs to produce something. And then you've got, on the other side, the outputs. And that's all really a system has, inputs, processes, and outputs. But then there's something that influences a system, and that's the environment, that's the sun up here. Because, like I said, nothing works in a vacuum. Like when you're building out, when you're doing anything, like it's not like it's not affected by something else. Everything is always running in a vacuum. And a classic example of this is like, imagine you as a human, and you've got you're a system. A human is basically a system, right? You got all of these different components within you, and then you've got all of the interconnections between all of them. Now, if you want an output out of yourself, which is good, like if you want to be happy and if you want to perform well and do good work and be focused and all of that, then if that's the output that you want, then the inputs matter. If you don't sleep properly, then your output isn't going to be very good, because sleep is a really important input. If your food isn't good, then your output isn't going to be very good. And just to show you how inputs actually affect outputs, just try having like 20 beers as an input, right? Just drink 20 of those, and then see how sharp you are, right? You won't be. So that's just right there, that shows you that what goes in affects what comes out. And there's this saying, with systems, garbage in, garbage out. What we put in is often what we get out. And then we've got the environment, which affects us too. And humans are really influenced by our environment. One of the largest influences of our happiness and things is the weather. And, if it's sunny, we're statistically more likely to be happy, just if it's sunny. And if you don't believe me on this one, then look at the most depressed countries in the world. And it'll be those ones over like Greenland, Iceland, where they don't have any daylight for basically most of the year, right? And then if you look at some of the happiest places, then you'll notice that it's places with really good weather, right? And there's even a trader called like Paul Tudor-Jones who even has developed a stock trading algorithm that basically looks at weather patterns and humans' reactions to weather patterns, and it trades stocks based on that, because humans are more likely to feel good and make optimistic bets when it's sunny. We think we're logical, but we're affected by the sun. That changes our decisions. All right, and so we've got inputs, outputs, processes, we've got our environment, and then we have feedback. And what feedback is outputs actually affect inputs, right? So all of this stuff is interconnected. And a classic example of this is, if you have, just think about a crowd forming, right? So if there's like some sort of dance party or music event or something like that, and let's say that no one is dancing and it's just an empty field, then one person goes in and starts dancing. That one person's going to be by himself for a while, but then as another person comes in, then people slowly start coming in faster and faster because a crowd's now forming. And then as soon as a lot of people start running in, a lot more people start running in, and then a lot more people start running in, and it grows exponentially. And this is a classic example about how outputs come back and provide feedback to inputs, right? And this happens the same way on the way back down. You know, if a lot of people start leaving, like a dance circle or whatever the hell you call those things, then a lot more people start leaving, right? And it decreases just as fast as it increases. And that's basically how it works. Now, you know, one thing, this operates everywhere. This is what we call a feedback loop, when the output of something directly affects the input of something. And a classic example of this is, you know, the stock market and stocks. So the biggest influence on a price of a stock is the price of a stock. So if a stock price is going up quite fast, then that's going to influence more people to think, oh, this is good. And then the people who put their money in, they're going to be like, oh, this wasn't the right decision. So they might put more in and tell more people, and then you get your bubble. You get your Bitcoin, you know, sort of event because of the feedback. And so that's basically how systems work.